pleased to welcome David Duchovny back to this program. The two-time Golden Globe winner is back with an all-new season of his hit Showtime series, Californication. The show airs Sunday nights at 9. Ouch! Can you feel? Can you feel the love?
Yeah, it's a comedy.
Yeah. It must be nice to be starting your 4th season and to have your biggest open.
Yeah.
Of those 4 seasons.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of snuck up on us.
Yeah.
It's been nice that the show's grown on its own in a way, which I guess can happen in cable. There's such a long time between seasons that I think people discover it on DVD or on reruns.
I'm about to ask, and you may have just answered, what do you make of that, that nobody these days in television gets a chance to grow, to build, to move the parts around to make it work? You know how this business works.
Yeah.
You're the expert here. Yeah. You don't hit the first 3 or 4 weeks. You get yanked pretty quickly, and yet here you are, season 4, and you found your biggest audience to date.
Yeah, and it's really too bad. I think it's more the case in network where the numbers mean so much right away. But what's unfortunate is that most television shows don't know what they are right away. I mean, I think we've gotten better even from the first year. The X-Files, as I recall, we didn't know really what we were until the middle of the first year. You know, so if we'd been canceled, you know, you get canceled before you mature into what it is you can actually be, which is too bad.
If you know what this show is now, and I assume you do 4 years later, it is what, for those who haven't seen it as yet?
Oh, wow. It's, well, I always come back to, I guess it harkens back to the adult comedies of the 70s, movies that I love, like Shampoo and even Harold and Maude, movies like comedies that were made for an adult audience instead of comedies that try to reach the entire audience, which is kind of what you have to do today to drive the motor. So I think we think that we're making a comedy for adults. Sometimes we're as childish as anybody, but then there's we think we're making a sex farce, we think we're making a comedy, and we also think we're making a drama about a family trying to make it.
Yeah. Is it just me, or am I getting the sense at least that there are more comedies connected to sex for adults now than ever before?
Well, I think in terms of features, I think with you know, Judd Apatow's work, starting with The 40-Year-Old Virgin, even though that's not really about sex, but that sensibility where sex is kind of the coin of the realm, speaking of it more than doing it. And then The Hangover, you know, with that making such a huge hit, I think, you know, the R-rated comedy kind of came into its own in the last 7, 8 years. So, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Were you, prior to this season, an EP on the show? Or is that new this season?
No, I started that way, yeah.
You started from the very beginning. I just wanted to make, somehow missed that the last time you were on.
I haven't fired myself
yet.
Yeah.
That's important.
Thinking about it.
That's important. But you're going to direct some more episodes this season?
Yeah, actually, I directed that episode that clip is from. And I always do 1 a year because I can't really prep more than that. I'd love to do more. I love it, and I love the actors that I get to work with on the show. So it's one of my joys of doing the show is getting to direct it.
Yeah. To your point about directing now, because you don't have time to prep for it. Because you're obviously starring in it.
Right.
Obviously, you can get better as an actor every season because you're doing it every day.
Yeah.
If you don't have time to do the directing, even though you love doing it, how do you get better at that part of it?
I don't know how anybody gets better at anything aside from doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think what happens for me, I hope that I get better as a director. And what happens is, unfortunately, there's a long time in between the times that I get to do it. But I think there's kind of a sedimentation that happens almost, where you're learning things even though you don't know you're learning them. And then the next time you're on set, the questions that used to just bamboozle you are now obvious answers, you know, and all of a sudden it happens that way. So not to say that things can't go horrendously wrong, because they do sometimes, but
I was teasing you, not teasing you, but teasing is the wrong word. I was asking you.
You were teasing me.
Okay. I found it implausible. I couldn't. It didn't make sense to me when I read that you, in this Neil LaBute play that you were in, that was your first time on the stage?
Yeah, ever.
Not first time on Broadway.
No.
It's like your first time on the stage as an actor.
Ever.
How did you get to this point in your career where you had never been on stage?
I'm just an imposter.
Yeah.
You know? I feel like I came to acting late in a way. I was about 26, 27, and it was an imperative that I make a living right away, and it's hard to make a living on stage. So I started in television and film. And I had in high school and college, I was an athlete. I never did theater, so it just never happened, and I never had the time to get back. And now I'm living in New York, and it all just kind of opened up that way. But I guess I've said that the other stage experience, the only public stage experience that I had was I played one of the Magi in the Christmas pageant. That was when I was about 10.
What did you make of what did you make of this experience?
It was fascinating because...
fascinating is always a fascinating word. I'm not sure I know what that means. It was fascinating.
Well, mostly because of the audience.
Right.
You know, I didn't know, obviously, I didn't know what an audience is in that sense. And an audience is part of the play. I'd heard that. I didn't know what it meant. And what it came to mean to me is Neil's play is and was, it can be very funny. It's also very dark. So there are different ways it can go on different nights. Sometimes the audience laughs right away, and you get the feeling, oh, that's the show they want. They're pushing it. We want a comedy. We want a comedy. And sometimes they don't. And neither play is better than the other, the comedy one or the not-so-funny one. They're very different, and they're both very powerful. But I found that to be a fascinating give and take between us, an unconscious one almost, where we're all in the room together, and we're doing something together. You're part of it, too. And we're just trying to put on a show.
Unconscious in some ways, but clearly you're aware that these few hundred people, 500 folks are sitting out there watching you. And everybody has his or her own, feeling about this, I suspect. My show, it's just you and me, a couple guys on camera, but there's no audience here.
Right.
Leno and Letterman do it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
What's Duchovny's choice now that he's done both? Being on the set doing your lines, or being in front of this live audience in the moment?
They're so different that I wouldn't choose. I feel like I've spent almost 20 years learning my craft as a film actor, a television actor, and a director of that medium, that I love to be able to utilize those skills that I've paid dearly for. Failed, and you fail and you learn, and you fail and you learn. So I'm excited to do that when I finally feel like my apprenticeship is over, and I get to do that. So. And in terms of the audience, I didn't die. I was afraid. I was terrified the first time.
You were.
Oh, well.
After all these years, you were still afraid.
Well, not only that, but this particular play, it begins with a 15-minute monologue, just me facing the audience, and it ends with a 15-minute monologue. So I thought of all the things that I could have picked. Well, it picked me, But the first time, I was sitting there before the first preview off stage, and I was just thinking, you're about to walk out on stage with a 15-minute thing, and I don't know that I'm going to remember. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. And that was terrifying. And in fact, I found that to be one of my worst habits as a stage actor was I would come off from doing the monologue, and if it didn't go as well as I wanted it to, I would find myself in the next scene just thinking about it. And I'm like, I'm acting now. It's very kind of a... It's a philosophical and an emotional maturity that you get to just let it go, But there were nights where I would think the whole play I'd be thinking about the first monologue and like, damn it, And it's ridiculous because it's always new. They don't think that it was terrible.
See, I empathize because I feel that way every other question on this show.
Sure,
what a dumb question.
Well, I mean, you're half kidding, right?
No, sometimes you're half kidding. Yeah. But sometimes you do that. You're in the middle of a conversation, like, man, why did I just ask that question?
Yeah. Well, really, all you're going off is instinct, and that's in this kind of a conversation or in any kind of a live performance, that's all you've got, and sometimes you hit and sometimes you miss, but and sometimes the misses are better than the hits.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's hope they are, at least. Yeah. In all the times we've had a chance to talk, I have never asked you, and I'm going to ask for the first time. I'm sure your diehard fans know this. And Duchovny, tell me about this last name.
It's Russian.
Yeah.
It means spiritual. I'm told whenever I run into an Eastern European who speaks the language, either Polish or Russian or Hungarian or whatever, they all, it means spiritual in all those languages. Anyway, duch means spirit, And ovnia is kind of the adjectival ending. So the word itself means spiritual. It's my father's name, obviously. He took the H out because he was tired of people saying Duchovny.
Yeah.
But he never did it legally.
All right.
So when my parents divorced, my mother, as a, to my father, put the H back in. Not even her name, but she puts the H back in. So when I was 11, I started signing my name differently. I spent the first 11 years of my life spelling it D-U-C-O-V-N-Y, which is not a name. It's like an Ellis Island name. And then after 11, I had to put the H back in. My brother never did.
Wow.
And my sister kind of,
sometimes,
depending on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, So that's the name. And, as names that can mean things, that I prefer spiritual to a lot of other things.
I was about to ask, having said all that, whether or not you think it fits. Obviously, you think it does.
Well, I don't know if it fits. I mean, I just...
You prefer it?
Well, well, let's say that it fits. I mean, in a general sense, yeah. I would hope that my concerns are in that area and not just in the physical world.
Yeah. The 4th season of Californication is on the air now on Showtime, starring one David Duchovny, with or without an H.
It's
Duchovny,
actually.
Okay.
I don't want to lay that on you.
I'm glad you said that. Say that again.
Duchovny.
There you go. I got to work on that. I'll have that down by the time you come back next time.
Sorry if I spit on you.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's probably why my father changed it after all. He was tired of spitting on people.
Well, by the time you come back next time, I'll have that down.
All right. Thanks.
For now, thanks, David.
Thank you.
Good to have you on. That's our show for tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep the faith.